Started. All right, hi everyone, welcome. Good morning. How many of you have been sitting in the lecture theatre since we began a couple of hours ago? Well done. Hopefully after this session you get a chance to stand up, stretch your legs and go and explore. Campus is very lively today, so hopefully you'll get to get some free food, get some free bits and pieces. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So welcome, I'm not Jane, for those of you who were here for Jane's session. I work very closely with Jane. My name is Lauren and I am from the Student Learning Support Service.
And my name's Mary Claire and I'm from the library.
And we're here to talk to you about AI. AI, how you can use AI for your study, how it can support your learning, and of course how to use it in a way that doesn't get you in trouble, which is probably what you're all actually here to learn about. So yes, I'm from the Student Learning Support Service, Mary Claire's from the library. We sort of collaborate, our two teams, on a lot of our AI resources and workshops and that kind of thing. So you'll get a little bit of hopefully two experts in the room for this one. So this session is Boost Your Learning with Artificial Intelligence. And I would like to begin by acknowledging this beautiful campus on Kaurna Yatta, land that was never ceded, and to pay my respects to Kaurna elders past, present and emerging. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to give you a little brief bit of an overview about what is AI, because I'm sure, by now, it's 2026, most of us are pretty familiar with AI systems and what Gen AI is and how large language models vaguely work. So we'll go through a little bit of the high level stuff on that. We are going to dive a little bit more deeply into the AI tools that we recommend that you use here at Flinders. So some of the Flinders specific tools and a couple of other tools that are probably most useful to your study. And then we'll talk through some of the more practical elements of using AI at university. So how can you use it to support your study? What kinds of things can it do to help you with your learning? And of course, what kinds of academic integrity things do you need to be aware of when you are using it? To get us started though, hopefully this works. If anyone's got a device, a phone on them, we would love for you to tell us a little bit of information about how you use AI so that we can kind of get a feel for the room, see where you're all at. So if you could open the QR code, there's 3 questions and these should populate as you answer. And then, we can kind of talk through some of the implications of this. It's been interesting to see over the last few years of doing this session how much students' answers to these same 3 questions have changed as everyone becomes more familiar and more comfortable with AI tools. So let us know, and hopefully we should start to see some answers popping up. Here we go. Wow, we're an even split so far, and it's changing quickly. 40%, never suddenly went from being the most common to the least common, so that's interesting. Let's see. Occasionally is coming out as the most popular option. And these are also very broad categories, obviously, so, interpret them as you will. But occasionally seems to be the most common. Daily, 24%, or 20, so a quarter of you are using it daily. A little bit less than that use it frequently. I would consider that to be maybe every couple of days or a couple of times a week. Interesting. And then only 10% are never, which is fine. I think there's a lot of reasons why people never use it. I think there's very good reasons to stay away from it. But yeah, okay, cool. And then the next, let's have a look. Oh. Is it going to let me interact with this so that I can change here? Here we go. I just need to find my cursor. There we are. What's on our next? Which tools do you use? ChatGPT is coming out as the winner there. That's exactly as I expected. A little bit of Gemini, some Copilot and Grammarly, Claude, Meta AI, Perplexity. So these are all, very common tools, ones that we would very much expect. Nothing in there has kind of surprised me, so that's good. And then wrong one. And how do you feel about it? Okay, helpful, big one coming out there. Passive information, I think that's a really interesting one and ties in with something that we're going to talk about today. Environmental impact, so you're very aware of the kind of ethical concerns around using AI, academic integrity, learning skills, difficult questions, useful, lots of problems, critical thinking, integrity coming up again. Yeah, cool. So it's like a mix between it being quite helpful and useful. We're aware of some of the ethical issues that come up around it, and we're both environmentally and from an academic integrity perspective, and you're also aware of the kind of critical thinking implications. So that's perfect, because that's basically what we're going to talk about today. So thank you for indulging us in that one. Let's move on now. Oh. Is it going to let me change my slide, or are we just going to be stuck scrolling through the... There we are. All right, I'm going to hand over to Mary Claire to tell you about what it is.
Thanks, Lauren. Since some of us use AI and some of us use it a little bit less, I think it's helpful just to get all on the same page about our definition of AI and what we're talking about today. So when we talk about artificial intelligence in general, we mean computer systems that perform tasks that usually require human intelligence. But when we talk about generative artificial intelligence, or Gen AI for short, we talk about a type of artificial intelligence that creates new content based on data that it has been trained on. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. When a model powers an AI tool, it is trained to generate text. So if we're thinking about those text-based models like ChatGPT that was on the screen before, when we're thinking about those tools that generate text, for example, a model powers the AI tool to generate text, and that text is based on a large amount of data that's collected and processed. And the model looks for patterns, it identifies patterns to help produce an output. And more often than not, there is a human involved in that training process to reinforce the training and to make sure the output is looking the way we want it to try and improve the quality of that output. So when we think about ourselves entering a prompt, the prompt is fed into the AI model. This is a very simple image-based way of talking about it. I guess some of you might be more experts in the room to talk about it, but this is a way that I certainly can help it make sense for me. So when we enter prompts into an AI model, that model analyzes words and context, looking for patterns to help produce this response. And sometimes with some tools, you'll see more and more often, it also searches the web. So that big amount of data that I talked about in the last slide is probably pulled from the internet, but sometimes live searches take place as well. And you'll notice that when you see links directly to a source, that it's searching the web also. So that's kind of what happens, just to get us all picturing what we're talking about when we're talking about Gen AI. But I'd also like to talk then about some of the tools that we would like to discuss today, that we'd like to introduce today. You talked about ChatGPT, very common, something that a lot of us have tried or use regularly, but there's a set of tools that we use at Flinders as well that Flinders provides. So some of them we subscribe to, some of them we even have created ourselves. So Copilot Chat is an example of something that you all have access to, that Flinders subscribes to. And like some of the tools you've used before, it generates text and images. It's powered by OpenAI's model, trained on a massive amount of data from the internet. But the great thing about Copilot and why we pay for this at Flinders for students and for staff and our researchers is so our chats are private, secure, and anonymous. So that means that your information is private and Flinders' intellectual property is secure as well, which is good. So you can access that by this link here. If you simply type in to your search, to Google, wherever you're searching, Copilot Flinders, that will be the first page that pops up. Another tool is Primo Research Assistant. So this is provided by Flinders Library, and like the name Research Assistant, you might guess that this is a good tool to help you with your research, with searching for high quality academic information. So it searches for academic sources provided by the library. So all of those subscription, online articles, online books, and so on, that the library pays for so students can access, you can search for them through this tool. So you can put a natural language search into this tool to help you search for sources. And we'll go a little bit more into that later with some demos that me and Lauren are going to do. But Lauren, would you like to tell us a bit about Learning Buddies?
Yes, the Learning Buddies, these are one of the tools developed by Flinders, so specifically by the Student Learning Support Service, and some of our great minds who are actually in the room with us today, but I won't identify them. So the Learning Buddies are made up of two different AI tools. There's Feedback Buddy, which is a co-pilot agent that allows you to upload a draft of an assignment that you're working on and ask for specific feedback. So you might ask, for example, about helping to improve the language of your work or the structure, things like that. There's also Study Buddy. So this is more like chatting with a learning advisor. You might ask it to provide you with some advice about how do I write a reference? I really don't understand referencing. Can you explain it to me? So they're developed based on Flinders resources, which means that they are designed in a way that they will link you then with more Flinders resources. So if you need more help, they'll link you to some of our guides and things like that. And they're also designed to work within the kind of integrity constraints of the university. So they're not going to do anything that would get you in trouble, okay? They're not going to write your work for you or rewrite your work for you. So you can use them ethically and know that when you're using these tools, you're not going to get in trouble for breaching academic integrity. So that's a really important, one. Is it me now? It is.
Yes.
So these are the other tools, many of which you guys mentioned. In fact, I think all of these came up in our word cloud. So you're all obviously aware of these tools. ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, other large language models, so that generative AI. They are, I think more and more diversifying in what they're specialist at. Like you might use different tools for if you're working with data, you might prefer to use a particular tool. If you're really trying to use some creative brainstorming, you might use a different tool. I was going to make a bad joke about if you want a girlfriend, you might use a different tool, but I won't make. I've already made the joke now anyway. And then there's Grammarly. Grammarly does have AI built into it these days. So if you are using Grammarly, just be aware that it is considered an AI tool, and so you might need to declare it and things like that in your assignments. But these are very common tools. As Mary Claire said, however, the disadvantage of these tools is that they are not protected in the same way that Copilot is. So when you use Copilot and you log in, we have that data security. Your information is not being used to train these models. These models don't have that. So if you're uploading your own work, they will use that as a part of their training data, okay? And that's really important to remember because sometimes uploading university materials, like your assignments or readings and things like that, that can be an academic integrity issue, okay? So just be aware of that. So how do we make sure that we are using these tools in the right way and with integrity? So firstly, always check if it's okay. It is increasingly common. You should have instructions in your assignments indicating to you how you are allowed to use AI. For most types of assignments, if you are able to use a computer, you're expected to be doing some sort of text-based assignment that's not an exam, or is not a kind of interactive oral or something that's being observed, some level of AI is generally accepted. Generally, I say, because it's not always 100% the case. But the degree to which AI can be used changes from assignment to assignment and from topic to topic and discipline to discipline. So it's really important to check, firstly, what can I use it for? So to what level can I use the tool? Can I use it for brainstorming? Can I use it for editing? Can I use it for helping me with my references, those kinds of things? And specifically, are there any tools that I'm supposed to be using? So they might tell you, you are allowed to use Copilot, and that's all. You're not allowed to use any other tools. Do I need to keep records? Some assignments will ask you to include an appendix with the prompts that you used when you interacted with AI. Or they might ask you to provide a draft of your work pre and post using something like Grammarly. And then do you need to acknowledge AI? This is pretty much a common feature of your reference list these days, is that, as you know, once upon a time you just had to provide your reference list for your assignments. Now consider it standard practice to provide a reference list and an acknowledgement of AI use. And I'll tell you what that should look like in a moment. So this is what this might look like in your assignments. You might see like this little scale, right? That kind of tells you where, you know, to what degree are you allowed to use AI? So this one is on the AI-assisted idea generation and structuring. So this means that you'd be allowed to use it for things like brainstorming, for helping to unpack the question, for maybe getting you started with some ideas, but you would not be allowed to use it to generate any content. So you would not be allowed to use it to rewrite your paragraphs, or, you know, so you'd be no copying and pasting of that content into your work, essentially. That would be a breach of academic integrity. So pay attention to this, and if you're ever unsure, just ask. It is always better to ask and make sure that you are clear on exactly what you can and cannot do, because obviously this can be a real problem. It can get you in trouble if you don't. However, you can, of course, use it very effectively. This is still me, isn't it? Yeah.
Sorry, I have you talking for a long time.
Sorry.
I'm working you hard today.
AI can be used in a lot of really productive and effective ways if you want to use it. Of course, you don't have to use it. Your brains are exceptional on their own. You don't need to use AI in your studies. But if you do want to use it, here are some ways that we kind of recommend that you use it. It's really good for helping you kind of understand complex content. So if you're being asked to write an essay on a concept that you're just like, I don't understand what this is, I don't know what the background is, I've been given all of these complicated, you know, academic journal articles to read about this topic, but I actually don't know what that topic is. Ask it to help unpack, what is this? Explain it to me like a, you know, high school student. You know, what is this concept? Help understand the essay question that you've been given, or the task instructions that you've been given for an assignment. Help you brainstorm some ideas. You know, you might ask it to, okay, what are some of the things that I need to be aware of in this general area? And then you might use those the key words that come out of that brainstorming to go to the library and do your research. To help you draft your outlines for your assignments, you know, there are specific tools for helping you to find reliable references that Mary Claire is going to talk to you about in a moment. Do not use general AI tools like ChatGPT to help you find references. This is a really, only use reliable, specific tools for this. This is becoming an increasingly big problem that a lot of students are getting in trouble for. So don't use like Copilot or ChatGPT to find references. You can also use it to help you revise your written language, you know, and again, I recommend that if you're going to use it for improving your language and expression, is ask it for feedback, but don't ask it to rewrite it for you. If you ask it to rewrite it for you, like, here's my draft paragraph, can you polish this for me? That, in majority of cases, is a breach of academic integrity. That would be a case of plagiarism. However, what you can do is you know, use a tool like Feedback Buddy and ask it, you know, how can I improve the clarity of my sentences? Where can you see repetition that I can cut from my sentences? And use it really actively like that. Or can you please explain to me what a run-on sentence is and why I keep getting feedback in my work that says I use run-on sentences? I've just marked 30 different essays, and I think I wrote on 27 essays you use run-on sentences, so that's very fresh in my mind at the moment. Revision tools, really helpful, or helping you to summarize some reading. So we're going to talk you through how to use some of these tools now. So
That's you for
me
Copilot.
first. Okay, I've got my notes here, but I just don't even, I haven't looked at them. Okay.
So with them,
we've gone
for
too far.
Copilot.
What I want to do now is switch over to show you guys what this looks like in practice. All right, so this is Copilot, okay? So Copilot you can access if you just Google Flinders Copilot. It'll take you to the page where you can access it. You log in using your Flinders Faned password, and that will give you access to the secure, the secure version, which has that enterprise data protection that we were talking about. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to upload an assignment and ask it to help me break down the assignment instructions. So I'm going to upload my essay. Oh, I need to sign in. I thought I signed in. This is why I had this all pre-ready to go, but that's okay.
That's something you'll experience with Flinders as well, that you have to sign in multiple times a day.
Even though I had it all open and prepared, so all I needed to do was open this thing. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to upload my assignment. Oh. And ask it to help me break it down. Okay, so I'm going to prompt it. Can you please provide me with a checklist for completion?
Cool.
Oh, I haven't spelled completion right, but it's going to understand what I mean. So it's fine. So it's going to look at this document. It's going to look at the assignment instructions that I've uploaded, and it's going to break it down for me and help me to figure out what am I actually being asked and what are all the things that I need to do before I submit my assignment. So it's given me this really useful sort of completion checklist. So it's like, okay, here's it's 1,000 words, submit it via Canvas, use a formal academic style. Oh, look, there's a format here, like it's, linking me to a guide. Choose one essay question. I'm going to use it in all of these 4 different versions of the assignment. And here's how I should structure my essay. Here's what I need to do to make sure that my argument and my evidence is right. I need to use APA referencing, acknowledge AI, respond to feedback. Fantastic, great. So I want to choose the psychology question. Can you help break it down for me? So just for context, this essay instructions has a lot of instructions about how to write the essay, and then it's got a number of different essay questions that you can choose from to write. Okay, so here it is. It's just summarizing the question for me. So this is an application essay, not just a, understand the scenario. Yep, okay, so it's breaking it down for me. Here we go, identify the sleep, explain what it explains what explain means. How do I answer a question that has explain? Okay. So you can see it's just really breaking a task down into really nice, small, incremental pieces. This is a really great way to use an AI tool, right? It's not breaching academic integrity. It is very helpful, and you can use this as that start of your brainstorming. The other one I want to show you is the Learning Buddies. So if you go to the SLSS website, we've got our 2 Learning Buddies, Feedback Buddy and Study Buddy. I've already got them open and ready to go. So I'm going to open up Feedback Buddy here. So once you have accessed Study Buddy and Feedback Buddy, they will appear in your menu here, right? If you're in your Microsoft 365 page. So Feedback Buddy works by if you upload a PDF of your assignment, like I said before, it can, I I saved it to the desktop. It will read your assignment and help you understand where you can improve it. So I'm going to ask, so can you provide advice for improving the structure of my essay? So this is just a sort of a PDF document of a 1,000-word argumentative essay. For context, Feedback Buddy always begins by just explaining what Feedback Buddy does and how it works, making sure you're aware of academic integrity things. I think I'm going to need to upload it again, so I'll just do that. Just do it a second time if you get that. Is that? Yeah. We'll upload it again.
It's like the second step.
Yes. So you can just say hi to Feedback Buddy the first time so that it will give you the spiel and then ask it. So provide advice on the structure of my essay. Let's see what it says. It will take a little moment to think, but that's because it's reading my essay. And hopefully it gives me some good advice. Let's see. Here we are. All right, so it's given me some advice. Structure and organisation. So some overall comments, some suggestions for revision. Consider breaking up long paragraphs into smaller ones, focus on a single main idea. Use clear topic sentences as the start of each paragraph, etc. I think you'll also note, like, it is quite specific about my assignment. It's not, too super general, like your tone is generally appropriate, but there are occasional informal phrases such as, we just need to treat it the same, so it is still drawing information from my assignment to show me those areas where I can improve. But you'll notice that it's not doing the work for me. It hasn't rewritten that sentence. So then I could ask it for some follow-up. I could say, can you advise me on how to improve the academic tone of my work? So I might pick one of those areas that it's highlighted and go a little bit deeper with it. Oh, and I said advise me instead of advise me, but again, it's not enough to know what I mean. Here we go. There we are. So again, it's given me examples from my work, but it hasn't rewritten it. It's provided me with some reflective prompts. How could you reword this to be more formal, avoiding we and presenting the idea objectively? So this puts the onus back on you. It's engaging your critical thinking skills, your learning skills, and it's sticking within the limits of what you're allowed to do with AI without breaching academic integrity. So if you do want to use these tools, remember that this has been designed very specifically for this purpose. So we highly recommend this. Even tools like Copilot, a lot of the time, even if you tell it, don't tell me, just give me advice, don't do it for me, it still sometimes will give you like examples that are essentially rewriting it for you. So avoid those as best you can because you don't want to accidentally end up in trouble.
Nice, thanks, Lauren.
Over to you for, I think I had the, here we go.
Oh, nice, thank you. So I liked your psychology example, Lauren. You broke down an assignment, a question. You might want to learn more about the question. You might want to get some background information. You might want to find some sources that you would cite in your assignment and weave through that assignment and reference at the end. So if you're looking for sources, the library is a great place to look for those academic sources of information. You can find some academic sources of information in lots of places. You could go to Google Scholar, for example, without being signed into Flinders Library, find some academic sources there. But Flinders pays millions every year in subscriptions to get all of those sources that are behind paywalls. So students, so all you as students can access them. It's part of your fees. So please do make use of all those great academic sources that are available to you. So this is the library, if you haven't seen it yet, this is the library discovery platform, library catalogue. It's called Find It at Flinders. And this is a place that you can search directly, put in some keywords related to your research question, your essay question, and see what's available. But we also now have an AI tool to help you search as well. So instead of using keywords, you can put in your whole question. So you can access it through, no, that's all right. You can access it if you're already at Find It at Flinders, the library catalogue. You'll see a link up here, AI Research Assistant. If you haven't accessed this before, I'll give you a quick demo of how. There's a couple of ways to do so. Can I go to your Okta dashboard? You could go to Okta, and this tile here, Library Find It at Flinders, should automatically be there, and you can click that directly to get to the page that Lauren provided. You can also type in, this is something I often do, I'm just going to search straight into Google, Library Flinders, and this will bring you to the library homepage, the library website. If you started off at Students here, it's the tab to the right. So lots of different ways you can access the library. This search box is the same as that search box we had on the screen before. It looks a little bit different because we have the library homepage here with lots of useful information. But again, we see this AI Research Assistant link here. And that brings you, whether you click on this link or whether you click the link in the version I showed you before, it all leads to Primo Research Assistant. So that was this tool that I introduced earlier that helps you search through all of the library resources in a way where you can pop in your research question. So let's get a research question in there. You can see that that the research history is on the left side, similar to some other tools. So let's put something in here. So similar to Lauren's example with the psychology research question that was provided in her assignment, the example assignment, I've put in this whole research question here. How has cognitive psychology contributed to our understanding of attention and memory? So I'll hit enter there for search or click this button. And I'll have a little think. And it will come up with 5 recommended sources. Now it's saying up here, generating overview for 5 most relevant sources, but you can research, you can try again, and it might give you some slightly different sources. So all that's to say, it gives you some top sources to think about, to have a look at. You can see here there's a range of materials, there's some books, there's some articles, so some really top level information there to give us that broad understanding, and then some very specific sources here in the form of a research article. So we can click on those and access them directly. I'll give you an example of 2. This one you can see has availability to access the PDF right away. This is an example of one that's available through the library. This is an article that the library subscribes to. This tool searches across a really wide range of sources, so not all of them the library has a subscription to, but you can always follow through the link and see if we have it in a paper form. Let's say it might be a print book, but this is an example of when it's available online, whereas this book here, it doesn't give us an example for a PDF right away, but if we follow this link, it might lead us to a paper-based book in the library on the shelves. So that's a little bit about accessing these top 5 sources, but it also gives an overview of the top 5. So you can see there's little in-text citations there leading back to the source it's referring to. Again, always good to read the source itself, follow through to the full text. The overviews are helpful to give us an idea of, is this source useful for me? Is it relevant to the topic I want to learn about? But I wouldn't rely on these overviews alone. They only pull the information from the abstract. So there could be a lot of information in the conclusion, in the findings that aren't represented here in this overview. And if you did just take this information and reference the article, you wouldn't be doing the full job of reading the source. So that may lead to a misrepresentation of the source, which we can talk a little bit more about throughout this session. But that's a quick overview of how this works. I haven't applied any filters. I just went straight for a question. So let's have a little go at applying some filters in this tool. I'll do it by using one of these useful related research questions here. So I've put in one question, but it's actually given me some examples about some related questions that could lead to further sources for me. So let's pick this one. What are the key theories in cognitive psychology related to attention and memory? And I can also apply some filters here if they're useful for me. So let's say I only wanted books. I don't want the in-depth articles just yet. I just want that top level, really background, broad information. But I do want it to be quite recent research and recently published. Now, these are just examples. This isn't what I'm telling you to apply for your own assignments. It really needs to be in context of what you want for the purpose of what you're looking for. But let's just apply these for the purpose of this demo. And so now it's searching for more resources again. You can see this is starting a search again as if it's from scratch. So it is taking that question and giving you answers based on that question, giving you sources based on that question. It's not like ChatGPT or Copilot where you can ask follow-up questions in the same way, say even that we were looking at with Research Buddy, the feedback buddy. So it's kind of like starting again, but luckily you can see your thread here about what sources it gave you first, what sources it gave you second, do a bit of comparison. There's some there that I see are coming up again, some that are a bit different. My favorite thing about this tool, though, is while it's super useful to have these top 5 sources that it's providing, sometimes you want to dig a little bit deeper and look a bit further. And there's a button here, view more results from your library search. If you click on this, it creates a search for you up the top here. It populates a long keyword search with strings, with ORs, so combining lots of keywords together for you, and finds even more sources. So rather than just the top 5, we're being brought back into that space that we started off with, that Find It at Flinders, the library discovery platform. And now we have a wide range of sources to look at. You can go through, have a look. You can see that your filters are retained here. You can add more filters as well if you want to get more specific. But that's just a taste of this tool. I'll let you play with it yourselves, and if you want more information about it, you can contact the library. But I won't go on about it too much, even though you can tell I'm excited about it. I'll move on to another bit of the presentation that we want to cover, because I'm conscious that you want to get out in the sun soon. How do I get back to this one here?
I'm just going to find the cursor.
Oh, leaving it back down here. Oh, thanks, Lauren. Oh, thank you.
There it is. We go back to the slides.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe I need to. Oh,
There
awesome.
we are.
Thanks, Lauren. So we've had a look at some examples like Lauren showed on the slide before with all the lists of great ways you can use AI. We looked at some tools and some live examples of us trying out some of those ways to use AI tools for study. But as we've kind of alluded to, there are some ways we don't recommend using AI tools for study that could lead to academic integrity issues, could just give you some bad information. So one of them is finding information that's reliable and that you want to cite. So the Gen AI tools are often limited to free information, like I've said. They're getting, their kind of data banks might be based on what they've pulled from the web, or they might be searching the web to bolster that search as well. But they don't have all of that additional academic information that the library subscribe to. So while you're getting part of the picture, you might not be getting all of it, and you won't be getting maybe as rich academic authoritative info as you'd like. They also, kind of related to this, have the potential to get that information incorrect. So you're getting some information, but not from authoritative sources perhaps, and it could be quite biased information, so you're not getting that holistic view sometimes. So it could be wrong. So instead, we recommend to use those academic sources that we've been having a brief look at through tools like Primo Research Assistant. As Lauren said before, we don't recommend using ChatGPT or Copilot to ask for a reference or get a reference. It could produce one. So let's say you're using APA and has, your author, your year, the name of the article, the name of the journal, and so on. It could give a sequence that looks really like a reference, but in fact, it's made up. It's the AI tool, like we were talking about before with those images, is looking for patterns, but it has produced a beautiful looking reference based on the patterns of text that it's looking at, but it's a hallucinated reference. It's not real. And we see this quite a bit here at Flinders, and I'm sure at other universities, that people put one of those references in their reference list, and the academic staff member, the teaching staff member goes, cool, I haven't heard of that amazing source before, and it's in my field, so I'm gonna look for it for myself so I can read it, but it doesn't appear, it's not real, and this is called misrepresentation of information, right? Or
Misrepresentation, yeah.
Of sources, yep. Misrepresentation, full stop. Yep. And so this is an academic integrity issue, a big one, and really common. So instead, you can still use AI to search for sources like Primo Research Assistant, which I keep talking about, but it'll provide a real source. You need to go ahead and read the source so you don't just rely on the overview, but the reference itself will be real, the source will be real. Whether it's good or not is up to you, but it's a real source. And what about rewriting texts you've written, Mara?
So as I said before, when we're using things like Copilot or ChatGPT, even sometimes you're trying to use them in best faith and you say, can you help me tidy my expression with this, or can you give me some suggestions? It will provide you with an example rewritten text. Even if you haven't even if you've gone to that tool and haven't said hey, here's my essay question, can you write me an essay about, this, and copied and pasted it. It's not that simple. That's what we think about when we think about AI cheating, but it is also considered plagiarism, even if you've drafted that work yourself and you've used an AI tool to help you refine that language, unless you have been told that you are allowed to do that. So really, truly avoid doing this. Even using Grammarly. Many of you are probably familiar with Grammarly. The free version of Grammarly tends to not actually change too much about your wording. It'll just highlight for you maybe where you've made some mistakes with your punctuation or having a run-on sentence or something like that. But if you pay for Grammarly Pro, that can rewrite things for you. It can change the structure of your sentences for you. It can change the tone of your work for you. Don't do this. This will get you in trouble. Instead, use a tool like Feedback Buddy, or come to the Learning Lounge and sit down with a real human being. We still exist. Human advisors haven't been replaced totally with AI. You can have a talk to a real person and get advice about how to improve your language, your structure, things like that. So, I just want to quickly really come back to a point of Mary Claire's, because I'm also an academic integrity officer, in terms of the, finding references. And again, a lot of my students in the program I just taught used AI tools to help them just create references, right? So they had really read a paper, they really had done the research, but then they asked, Copilot, can you create a reference for this source? And it gets it totally wrong. They are not good at referencing, and they are not good at research. Don't use them for that. There is nothing more of a red flag in your work than having a hallucinated reference. Don't fall into that trap. The number one type of academic misconduct issue used to be plagiarism, and now it's misrepresentation. So misrepresentation has overtaken plagiarism as the highest number of academic misconduct cases at the university. So just don't do it, guys. Use real research. So before we finish up, let's talk about how to get the most out of your AI tools. So when you are writing prompts, you will get good quality by putting, you get a good quality output with a good quality input. So learning how to write prompts is a really important skill to develop. And again, particularly if you want it to not rewrite your work for you, but actually give you tools to be able to do that yourself, you need to learn how to prompt it in particular ways. So these are a few key things to think about. When you are prompting, make sure you're very clear about the task. What do you want the tool to do? So explain the concept of cognitive psychology in simple terms for a beginner. The role, give it get it to do some role play for you. Can you act as an academic tutor to explain this concept? The context, why is this needed? What's the scope of the task? This overview is needed to begin research for a first-year psychology essay. And what do you want that output to look like? So what's the level of complexity? Do you want it in paragraph form, or do you want it in bullet point form? Do you want it to be professional or casual in tone? Those kinds of things. So the output should be clear and a clear and concise summary in bullet points suitable for an undergraduate student with an introductory understanding of psychology. Use an academic and professional tone, don't exceed 200 words. So all of those constraints will hopefully get me what I actually want from the tool. Asking really big, broad questions often gives you really, really poor output. If I was just to say, explain cognitive psychology, it would give me, who knows what it would give me, all sorts of different things. And then, of course, evaluate your output.
This touches on a lot of what we've talked about already. So when you've put in your great prompts, like Lauren has, you want to check the limitations of the tool, be aware of the limitations of the tool. So the tools are only as good as the information they're trained on. If the data is incorrect, biased, or misleading, guess what? The output will be incorrect, biased, and misleading. That phrase, garbage in, garbage out, definitely applies here. Often with tools, they have their own writing style, so they may not match that academic style that's expected at university. You can write prompts to try and assist with this, but really it's important that you're writing it in your own words, like Lauren talked about before. You're getting feedback about how to sound more academic, but you're not getting the tool to write that style and rewrite your work for you, of course. These tools, another limitation to consider is that they lack critical thinking. They are models, they're AI models, they're AI tools, they're not people. We sometimes talk about them like they are, like it's having a think or it's hallucinated something. But it is just software. We are the ones who need to be the critical thinkers, and we need to understand the outputs and evaluate them and check that they're right. Did I go?
Is that right?
Is that it? Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. So before relying on their output, check that they're right by, again, cross-referencing some of those sources. You might do a Copilot search, you might do a ChatGPT search, you can get some information, but find reliable sources that match that info. Make sure that that's backed up elsewhere by people who've written on this topic that are experts in the field, that it's an authoritative, credible source. If you do, not all information that's useful is through the library, even though I'm very biased. Mm-hmm. Not all information that's useful is directly through that library platform I showed you. Some useful information is web-based. But make sure when you're searching for that information, take statistics, for example. There's some great sites online that provide statistical information. Make sure you're getting it from an authoritative voice, so official sources on that subject. For example, if you want Australian statistics, go to, for example, Australian Bureau of Statistics, not a site that isn't an official source on that matter. If you're using an AI tool that has a link to where it's getting that information, take a look at the link. Where is it going? Is it like a bit of a bogus site that's not super credible or academic? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. If it is, great. Take a look at the information it's providing in the summary it's provided for you. Click the link and read the source yourself. Just like I talked about with Primo Research Assistant, great, it's a reliable tool, but let me check the source myself. I need to read it if I'm going to include it in my assignment. Same information applies here. If you're using an AI tool that has a link, read where the link is coming from, read the information that it's leading to. And then acknowledging the use of AI is so important as well, Lauren.
So acknowledging AI, as I said, this is kind of becoming standard practice along with doing your, usually your reference list. So typically an acknowledgement of AI use will come at the end of your assignment. And it's basically a very transparent account of what you did, how you did it, and whether, how useful it was to you. I really want to emphasize transparency is key here. You are far less likely to get in trouble if you tell your lecturer what you did and how you did it. That's all they're looking for. If you try to hide the fact that you've used it, this is where you often land in trouble. So again, considering that AI tool scale, what you are allowed to use it for, which tools you're allowed to use, this is sort of the other side to that. So the AI tool acknowledges what you did, how you did it, which tool you used, and what you used it for. Some examples I acknowledge the use of Copilot Chat to generate ideas for my essay structure using the prompt, how can students use AI tools ethically in their work? I critically analysed the output and kept 2 of the suggestions. I then asked for further clarification on the 2 outputs before using the suggested terminology to begin a scoping search of the literature. The rest of the output is my own work. Screenshots of my interactions with Copilot Chat have been provided. Like if I received this as a marker, I'd be very happy with this because it tells me exactly what you did. I know your process. The university uses a tool called Turnitin, which some of you might be familiar with. So Turnitin is text matching, has text matching abilities. These days it also has AI detection. I put that in inverted quotation marks because its AI detection is not 100% accurate. However, every assignment that you submit will come back with a report that will tell your marker what Turnitin thinks the likelihood of you having used AI in your work is. What percentage of your work does it think may have been generated by AI? It doesn't mean that it has been. This tool is not always correct. We know that as markers. However, if I get a report that says, this has been 98% generated by AI, but then I see a really detailed, acknowledgement that tells me exactly what steps you did, acknowledges the use, and I can say, oh yes, actually I can see how the use of this tool has led to AI thinking that it's been used. I think that yes, this tool has been used within the limits of what is acceptable for this assignment. I can let it go and I don't need to kind of follow through with more of an investigation. So this protects you in those cases and it makes, your marker's job a lot easier. So try to be as detailed as you can in there. It's also just important to note that just in case you do ever get those really scary emails that say that, potentially AI has been misused in your work, here's how you can try to protect yourself, okay? So firstly, assignments don't appear out of thin air, okay? Lecturers know this. You don't just have 1,500 words created in a document in 2 minutes, okay? So you will have done work to create 1,500 words at some point. Whether they might be in your drafts, you might have a Google Doc with some dot points from when you've been doing all of your research. You might have some mind maps that you did on paper. You might have handwritten notes in your own journal. Keep everything that you do when you're creating an assignment. Save copies of the papers that you have cited in case maybe you did, put the wrong citation in and you just accidentally got it wrong. Your tutor thinks that you've hallucinated, used a hallucinated assignment. You can say, oh no, here's the paper I used. I just got it wrong in my referencing. It's funny these days how many students delete everything apparently after they've submitted their assignments to save themselves those very important 20 kilobytes of space in their hard drives, I assume. So don't delete things, save them. Whatever you use to create your assignments, file it away so that if you do get that email, you know that you've done the right thing. You can reply saying, here's my research notes, here's the plan that I wrote, here's the articles that I used. And then the investigating person will say, fantastic, thank you so much, case closed, okay? If you can't produce those documents, it's very suspicious. So highly, highly recommend that you do the right thing and keep all of your drafts and everything. And if you are using something like AI to improve your written work, like Grammarly, for example, save a copy of your draft before and after you've made the changes that it's suggested. You could take screenshots, those kinds of things. All of that stuff is super helpful in case you ever are accused, because Turnitin has decided that your writing style sounds like AI. And that happens. Some people just write like AI. It does happen. So just keep yourself safe. And that brings us to the end. So we've got a couple of minutes. Are there any questions? No? All right. Oh, yes?
Acknowledgement thing. On the assignment, where should we keep it, on top or with the references or anything?
So the question for those online is where to put the acknowledgement of AI. Generally speaking, it comes at the end of your assignment. So you'd have your main assignment. Typically on a new page, you would have the acknowledgement of AI, either usually just before or just after your reference list. You can always double check with your lecturer about where they prefer it to go.
And can we put in rubrics there to get the idea of
Yeah, so I often teach this with students when I've got a bit longer to be interactive, is uploading a rubric into something like Copilot and saying, can you help break down this rubric? What am I going to be assessed on? And what do I need to be aware of? What I will say about rubrics is use a secure tool like Copilot, because it is considered university, intellectual property. So don't put it into ChatGPT or Gemini, but certainly if you're using your Flinders account with Copilot, uploading a rubric is a really great way of understanding